Hello everyone, in this video I'll be ranking the Baldur's Gate 3 characters on a tier list from best to worst. So this is in terms of how enjoyable they are as a character and all the little nuances between them. The first one we got here is the Dark Urge, and now this is a origin character that you can only get if you play as them, and I have to say they're in a definite S tier. What makes the Dark Urge such a great character is you get so many unique interactions in the game, and you're really integral to the plot of the game. Now, people typically think that the Dark Urge is only for evil playthroughs, but that's further from the truth. You can actually have a really good resist Dark Urge playthrough, and I personally think that it is the definitive way to play Baldur's Gate 3 because it's similar to Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 where you're a ball spawn and you're very important in the plot. So I think that the Dark Urge is probably one of the most unique character origins. If you're looking to play the game again, I wouldn't say to make another Tav. Make a Dark Urge. You'll really enjoy it. Next we have Shadowheart, and this is another easy S tier. Shadowheart is a interesting character. She can go either good or evil, so she's typically a character that a lot of people play through the game with because she can go full Shar Worshipper and be evil, or she can become a Selenite and be a good character. So I think that Shadowheart is really great, so I have to put her up in the S tier. Now, there are some people that don't like Shadowheart because she beefs heavily with Lae'zel, but overall, I do think that she has a really great character arc in terms of going full into the evil side or into the good side of things. And yeah, it's Shadowheart. It's Shart. People love her. I guess we'll throw some random people in here because I don't want to just do all the origin characters. We'll put in some of the Act 2 characters here. So we got Balthazar, who is trying to use the immortality of Dame Aelin to become immortal himself. He's a necromancer wizard, and it's interesting how his character plays out. He does drop if you're a necromancer, you have to get the circlet that he drops because it'll half the damage that your summons will take, and that's really good. I think Balthazar is not a bad character, but I feel like he could be more well utilized. Act 2 has a lot of villains in it, but he doesn't shine when there's people like Ketheric Thorm there, which I'll get to later on in this video. But Balthazar's not bad. He does give you some good items, and you can get the meat golem dude there to fight with you in the Shard Temple. But I'm only going to put him in the C tier because the Shard Temple is kind of like, I would say, the most frustrating part of the game, and he's a frustrating character in there. So some people like Balthazar, but he's just fair. Next, we got Malice Thorm, and I just didn't love this character. These are all related to Ketheric Thorm. So Theobald is his son. This is his uncle, and we don't know what Garangoth is, but Malice he's an annoying character. He's practicing surgery. He does give you a really good amulet that actually pairs well with the Killer's Sweetheart Ring, because if you get a critical hit, you can paralyze the target for 2 turns. So it's a decent amulet for a lot of martial classes, but I'm going to put Malice in the F tier. I think he's kind of forgettable. He does some really dark stuff in the game, but I just didn't really love the character too much compared to some of the others. Garangoth too, I'm not a huge fan of her. She's obsessed with gold. You have to pay her 5,000 gold, and she will give you a unique spell. If you pay her the 5,000, which you shouldn't, you should just fight her. But she will give you a spell, Flesh to Gold, which is flesh to stone, but gold. This is one of the few spells that you can't actually scribe into a wizard's spell book, so yeah, she's okay. I'm just putting her in the F tier. Don't love these two characters too much. But Theobald Thorm, this is a pretty funny guy. I'm going to put him in the B tier because it's an interesting interaction. I really enjoyed it my first time because you can get into like a drinking challenge with him. And if you keep drinking on, it'll make him explode. Pretty disgusting. But I think of the 3 Ketheric relatives, he is probably the best of them. But yeah, you have to do a few checks to be able to get him to explode. But what's nice about the bosses in Act 2 is you don't have to fight any of them if you don't want to. You can talk your way out of it or drink your way out of it. So yeah, B tier. Now we got back to the origins. We got Gale, and Gale is an easy S tier for me. Now Gale actually is cool because he has a lot of unique stuff. If you play as Origin Gale, you'll get the ability to have his cat, the Tressum, so you can have his cat at your camp, and that's exclusive only if you play as him. He also has a ton of unique stuff. If you get into Act 3 and Ascend Gale as you're playing with him, you get the ability to get level 9 spells from Gale. So very cool. There's not many level 9 spells. Like there's ones at the end of the game, Dominate the Netherbrain, but he gets his own, and he can actually bonus action turn people into a Tressum cat. So Gale's great. Also, if you, this is, I was just talking about playing as him, but he's a great companion as well because he is. I did a tier list talking about all the characters' alignment in this game, so you can check out my channel for that. But he kind of is a neutral, chaotic character. He's obsessed with power. I love Gale. He's slightly good aligned, but if you're going evil, he will be down for it. For example, like I did a Dark Urge playthrough, and I've seen everywhere online that Gale will try to leave the party if you raid the Grove. I raided the Grove and Gale was fine with it. He didn't care. So he was just talking about getting Mystra's favor. And yeah, I feel like of all the companions, he is the... Him and Shadowheart are both... They can go evil or good, whereas people like Will and Karlach are strictly good. Gale is the god of ambition, and he has a lot of unique content in the game, and he's also the most powerful before Baldur's Gate 3 even started, because he is a very strong wizard that got his powers brought down by the tadpole. So easy S tier. He's funny, dorky, cocky, lot to love there. Next we have Astarion. Now I'm going to put him in the S tier as well. If you're an Astarion hater, I can understand. The first moment you meet Astarion, he tries to attack you with a knife. So obviously not off to a great start. I know there's a lot of haters of Astarion out there, but you got to respect the work that Neil Newbon put into the voice acting. He did an incredible job. Like, I think this is probably the best voice acting of a character that we've got in a very long time. Aside from Elden Ring's DLC with Egon and the Curse You Bale, Astarion's voice acting was extremely well done. He has a ton of dialogue in the game as well, so yeah, he's just a great character to have on your side. He's more evil aligned. He's kind of like a chaotic evil character. So, yeah, take from that what you will. Astarion's a great guy to have on your team. Very eloquent with his words. And again, he's not for everyone. So if you might even put him in the F tier, but I'm just going to put him in the S tier because great voice acting. So next we got Lae'zel, and Lae'zel is very brash at first. Like I've gotten a lot of comments hating on Lae'zel as well. Probably the most of the Origins hated on is Lae'zel. Now I can understand a bit of it because she is like not very nice towards anyone that's not Gith. Like she loves the Gith a lot, and that's just the way that she was raised. She was kind of brainwashed like Shadowheart was, but she kind of has some redemption. Like when you first meet her, she is a lawful evil character, but she kind of transforms into more of a neutral evil or a neutral lawful character, I would say. So I'm gonna put her into the A tier. Like she has great character development too if you want to go like the good route with her, but she's also down if you want to do evil stuff. Like she just likes to fight and be a warrior. So yeah, she's a good character. I just think I like the other Origins a bit more than Lae'zel, but I'm trying to have her more in my parties in my playthrough so that I can get a better understanding of her character. But I still feel like she's a bit off-putting to some at the start, and I'll just put her in the A tier for that. Next we got Will, and I think Will is another S tier character. So he's a Blade of Frontiers. He's actually got a very tragic story, and he's a character that not a lot of people give a chance to, because if you save Karlach, who's a lot of people's favorite character, he gets the tiefling horns, or yeah, he gets like the devil horns and the eyes and stuff, and people don't like that appearance, but if you don't want that, you have to kill Karlach. So you're kind of stuck if you want to have a normal Will. But what's cool about Will is he signed a deal with Mizora to save people. He is a lawful good character. He tries his best. He doesn't do anything sketchy to get out of his contract with Mizora either. Like, he could easily enough have tried anything to try and break that contract, but no, he sticks to it. He knows that he made a big sacrifice for the people of Faerun, and he sticks by it. He's also extremely powerful. He's fought a dragon. He took on 26 different armed people at one time. He's able to... Prior to the tadpole, he was able to summon hellhounds. Like, him and Gale were two of the strongest before the tadpole event happened. And yeah, I would say he's an S tier character. He's probably the most righteous and good character, and he has a really great conclusion to his story in Act 3. He's actually very tied to the plot because the Duke Ravengard. So yeah, I would say Will's definitely S tier. Next we have Karlach, and she is an awesome character. If I were to rank these by... I'm trying to like inter-rank them. It's kind of tricky. But I would say Karlach is an S tier as well. She is a firecracker of a character. She's chaotic good. And she was a warrior in Avernus, and came, you know, the conclusion of that she came into the story with the Nautiloid crash. So all these characters ended up on there. They were fighting each other, and then they ended up liking each other, and they actually have a very interesting romance. But Karlach is hilarious. I think she's one of the funniest characters, but she also has an extremely tragic story because she has the infernal engine inside of her that's obviously causing a lot of issues. And what's cool about it, though, is you can have... There's a few happy endings for Karlach, and I think they're adding another one in at some point, but the true happiest ending, I think, is if Will goes to Avernus with her and they spend their lives happily ever after. In my first playthrough, I turned her into a mind flayer so that she could live, even though it kind of destroyed her soul. Very sad, but at the time, I thought that was a good ending for her. It was my first playthrough, and I was just playing. But yeah, Karlach is awesome. Another huge moment is in Act 3, whenever you fight Gortash, and she has quite the speech at that point in the game. So yeah, I would say she's definitely S tier of a character because she's lovable, she's funny, and she's got a really big passion for just living. So yeah, we'll put her in the S tier. Next, we have Halsin, and Halsin kind of suffers from being added too late in development. He wasn't originally meant to be a companion, but people in early access loved him and demanded that he became a character. So you can see it definitely with his act. He's most important in Act 2, and obviously Act 1, that's when you recruit him, but he doesn't have much in Act 3. Like, it feels like you almost want to remove him from Minsk when you get to Act 3. Now, Halsin is a great character overall. Like, he's a druid. He can turn into a bear, and lots of people love that scene, but I don't know. I feel like he's not enough. There's not enough Halsin to go into the S tier, so I'm going to put him into the A tier. I feel like there's kind of... Minthara, I feel, has more of an involvement than him. Kind of their opposite characters. Like, he's the good aligned one. If you help the druid, you get him. If you go against the druid, you get Minthara. But Minthara, on the other hand, she is the funniest person that I know. Minthara is similar to Lae'zel, but I think that Minthara she goes above and beyond the evilness of Lae'zel, and it's almost comical the way that she does. Like, she's a lawful evil character, and she doesn't change. She's always lawful evil, whereas Lae'zel can become like a lawful neutral. You can't make this girl good. She is pure evil, straight to the bone. She's from Drow nobility, so she kind of has that, like, I don't know, she got like a kind of, not a spoiled brat, but like she believes herself to be above others. It's kind of similar to Lae'zel, but in a different way. It's almost like it's a very evil way. I would say I would put Minthara in the S tier. Any evil playthrough, I have to have Minthara because she's funny. I recommend bringing her to the circus of Last Days in Act 3 because that's a pretty funny moment for her. But overall, she's brutal, and I think she's probably one of the coolest evil characters, and she has a extensive history with, you can't see it here, but with Orin, so yeah, that obviously has some really big tie into Act 3, so I recommend having her, because at the end of Act 2, she'll sit on the throne and give some pretty cool speeches, so yeah, I really like Minthara. She's funny, minty. Next, we got Jaehaera. I think Jaehaera is another really great character. She comes from Baldur's Gate 2, where she's like kind of a true neutral character there, but she's the leader of the Harpers. She's trying to do good for the greater good. I think that she's honestly a pretty good character. She has a lot more involvement in the story than Halsin. They're both kind of comparable. They're both druid characters. But I feel like Jaehaera just has a lot more in the game. Especially in Act 3, you can go to the Harper house and you can go into the basement and there's a bunch of stuff there for her. So I would say that she is definitely a to S tier. I might even put her... I really like Jaehaera, so I'm going to put her in the S tier. I think that she's great. So some people might not like her, but she was a level 20 character in Baldur's Gate 2, and she saved the world back then. Like, she deserves a lot more respect than I see people giving her, and she has some funny interactions with the characters. Also, I played through my first playthrough in Baldur's Gate 3 and didn't do any romance. But there's a cool ending in the epilogue. She will actually make you a Harper if you don't have anyone romanced. So, cool endings for people that... I mean, you can't romance her, but you can get that cool ending. I don't really do a whole lot of romances in video games, but yeah, you get rewarded for that. So, I have to put her in the S tier. Respect from Baldur's Gate 2. And then, I guess in a similar vein, Minsk. Minsk is an easy S tier. Anyone that's picked him up has... You'll see why. Minsk and Boo are hilarious. They're like the comic relief of the game. And they're good aligned. Chaotic good. They're kind of like Karlach, but they come from Baldur's Gate 2. They were very strong in the past, and while he is a ranger, he's technically a berserker, so you can give him that spec if you want to. But yeah, Minsk is hilarious. I think he's one of the funniest easily probably the funniest character in this game. And you get Boo as well. So Boo, this giant dwarf space hamster. Yeah, lots of love with Minsk, so he's going easy S tier. Next, we got the Emperor, and this is a very interesting one because the Emperor is manipulative. He's very, very manipulative. If you go with him, he's all hunky-dory. He's a good guy, if you side with him. But the moment you go against what he wants, it gets bad. He joins the Absolute, and he's right against you. So I think he's actually a really well-wrote character. Little spoiler alert, cover your ears if you haven't beaten the game, but he is Baldur. And you'd be surprised how many people have beat the game and didn't even know that, because he kind of reveals it at Act 3 when you get into Act 3 when there's already so much going on. Some people might even have just skipped over the cutscene, but he reveals that he is actually Baldur. So I think that's pretty cool. Some people hate him a lot, and some people like him. I think he's a very well-wrote character, so I want to put him in the B tier, but I would say probably like A to B tier, because he's extremely nuanced and well-wrote. He's evil, but he's good. He wants to destroy the Absolute. Like he can have a story depending on how you play out the game. Like he can be a rogue Illithid and go against the Absolute, or if you kind of go against his wishes, he's your worst enemy. So very dynamic character. I think it's a very well done character too. Now you can go with Orpheus. You can side with Orpheus, and that's one way of playing out the story. But yeah, at my first playthrough, I went with the Emperor. I felt like that was the way to go. So I would say A tier. Really well wrote. Personally, I don't love the Emperor, but I think he's, as far as character design go, very well utilized. Next, we got Raphael, and Raphael is probably one of the best villains in the game. Yeah, definitely one of the best villains in the game. One of the best villains ever. Because he's got this weird feeling that he's always watching you, he's always lurking over you. But once you finally get to fighting him, it's very interesting. It kind of reminds me, if you ever watch the show Lucifer, Raphael kind of reminds me of similar to that character. But yeah, what's cool about him, I think one of my favorite boss fights of all time is actually against Raphael, because he will sing like a Disney villain right at you. So for that, I have to put him in the S tier. Really great and well done character. He's also easy to hate, and if there's a character that's easy to hate, it's typically a character that's well done because they were wrote in a way that makes you want to dislike them, and that's not always the easiest thing. But Raphael, he's very involved in the plot, and I would say he's definitely an S tier character. Next we have Mizora, and she put our poor boy Will in some heavy deep water. Now, I do wish that there was something different about her questline, that we could maybe revert Will back to looking like normal. So, yeah, I feel like there was just something missing with her, but you can get the Infernal Rapier from her, which is an incredibly powerful weapon, and definitely one you want for a charisma user like Will. Or if you got a Paladin, it makes for a good weapon for them. I think Mizora is probably B tier. You can romance her briefly. I don't like doing that. Some people have commented in the past that they love that, but I don't want to do my boy Will like that. So it'll also end some relationships with certain characters. But oddly enough, if you romance Shadowheart, she doesn't care if you do it with her. So it's weird to me, but whatever. Next, we got Zevlor. Now, he's got actually had a very emotional moment. I didn't love his character, but in Act 1, if you're to raid the Grove, his reaction is actually like kind of heartbreaking. It made me feel bad for doing it, and it's a video game. Like, I would say I would put him in the B tier. He's got a decent involvement in the plot, like with the Tieflings, but I don't love the character. I do think he's a very well done character, because he makes you feel really bad if you go against the druids. So yeah, for that, I'm going to put him in the B tier. Next, we got Alfira the Bard, and I think that she's a pretty solid character. If you're not playing as the Dark Urge, if you play as the Dark Urge, I have a very sad story to tell, but the Dark Urge don't like her that much. So I think that Alfira the Bard is A tier. Like, she is a fun character to have around, and I feel like she was a character that was potentially planned to be a companion because she's a bard, and we don't have any. None of the companions are bards. I feel like we weren't supposed to get Halson, and we maybe were supposed to get her. Also, kind of random fun fact, but Astarion was actually supposed to be a tiefling at one point in early development. That's what he appeared as, but they had to make him, I feel like, a bit more relatable to be that charismatic. But I do feel like Alfira could have been a potential. I feel like there's going to be a mod someday that lets you take her as a companion if there's not a mod already, but she does feel like she should belong with the group, even if it was just like a camp, just at camp for a few long rests. But yeah, I think that she's a good character overall, and kind of tragic character. Next we have Roland, and I don't hate Roland, but he beefs with your character pretty well. And actually, my first playthrough, I was like, screw this guy, I don't like him. He also can side with Lorokin, who's a very evil character. He's not on this list, but I would put him in the F tier. Now, Roland beefs with you, he beefs with Gale. He does have a bit of a redemption arc. I did look into it. I haven't had it in any of my playthroughs, but there's been some people that have commented about how he is pretty interesting of a character, and he can be somewhat good in Act 3. He kind of feels bad. I am going to put him in the C tier, though, because he always rubbed me the wrong way, and I guess this is just my own personal thoughts on all the characters. So some people like him. I respect it if you do, but I'm going to put him in the C tier. Scaleratus Fell. Now, he freaks me out. I don't like him at all. He likes it if you kill him, though, which is kind of funny. You only get him if you play as a Dark Urge. He's your butler. He gives you the Deathstalker Mantle Cloak, which is the best cloak in the game. Gives you free invisibility if you kill a target. So, and it's invisibility for 2 turns. So you can go kill someone, and then you get free invisibility, and you can like stealth and attack again. So really good items that he gives you, but just really freaky, scary. Don't like it. It could be like a C tier, but I'm not a big fan of this character. Next we got Wolbrin Bongle and Barkus Root. Wolbrin Bongle goes in the F tier. Screw this guy. He wanted to genocide people. I don't like that. So he's going to C tier. He didn't like the gnomes. And the gnomes were, yes, they were working for Gortosh, but they never sold their secrets. They could have very well sold how to make the explosions to people and reap the benefit of that, but they never sold out. So the gnomes are pretty good. They're not super good, but like they didn't do the worst evil that they could have possibly done. And this guy's just, he's pure evil. So I had to put him in the F tier. Then we have Barkus Root, which you can accidentally kill him if he's on the windmill. You can launch him flying. I want to put him in the B tier because he is kind of funny, and he does have a pretty big involvement in the plot with Wolbrin Bongle. So yeah, I'll put him in the B tier just because he's kind of funny of a character. Next we got Scratch, the goodest boy. Now there's actually some funny interactions in the game. If you kill Scratch, which don't, there's a bunch of dialogue for all the characters. Some of them will comment how they miss having Scratch around. But Minthara, oh my god, her lines are kind of funny whenever she throws the ball. She'll tell Withers to go catch the ball instead of Scratch. And then she'll be like, why does everyone think I killed the dog? I like the dog. And it's just funny. Yeah, everyone thinks that she killed the dog. But yeah, don't do that to Scratch. Next, we got the Owlbear Cub. S tier as well. These two, I couldn't put them anything lower than the S tier. I feel like people would be upset if I did. And I like them. I like having them around the camp, and I always try to recruit both of them. It's just fun whenever you're going around a long rest, seeing them run around, playing with each other. They don't do or say much, but they're just there. And they have a, I mean, you can talk with them, but they don't have a whole lot. Like, Scratch does have an Act 3 quest, and there's a little bit of a quest in Act 1 for the Owlbear Cub, but they're just good to have around, and again, they're cute, so they got extra points for that. Next, we got the Drider. The Drider's, it's interesting, because if you're evil, you get to actually walk through the Shadowlands with him, but if you're a good line character, you fight him. It's interesting how it works out, because like you can go along with him, and you kind of see it from the opposite view, depending on what side you're aligned with, if you're good or evil. I'll put him in the C tier. Could be F tier. Just because it's a spider and he's freaky eyes. Yeah, I'll put him in the F tier. He's freaky looking. I know it's not a good method of judging it. I played an evil playthrough and I didn't even like him that much. I'm pretty sure I still killed him on my evil playthrough just because I didn't want him around. Just, yeah. I don't know. Spider people kind of scare me. Not Spider-Man. Spider-Man's awesome, but this man is Man-Spider. We don't like that. Next we got Elminster. He is one of the strongest characters in the game. We don't actually truly meet Elminster. It's actually a construct if you go to examine him whenever he shows up. It's just him showing up to eat cheese at your camp. Like, he literally, or you can meet him in other places in the game, but he would have made that construct, had to put all the clothing on the construct, and then send it off to go meet up with Gale. And then he's like, hey, Gale, your ex-girlfriend wants you to explode. So, kind of a funny experience in the game whenever you see him. But he's actually a very respectable character. I'm putting him up in the A tier. What makes him so great is he is, like, beloved in the Dungeons and Dragons community, and he had a really funny appearance in the game. Like, I feel like they really nailed Elminster's appearance, and he also shows up in Act 3 too. But it's just funny to think that this wizard that's so powerful creates a construct of himself to show up and just eat cheese and tell Gale that he needs to explode. So yeah, A tier. Elminster's the GOAT. Next we have Ketheric, and I think Ketheric's another S tier character. I'm going to put him right beside Raphael there. Those are the two villains that really stand out to me in this game. The reason I think Ketheric's such a good villain is that he is kind of like, he wants to be good deep inside. He wants to be a good character, but he's kind of obsessed with Isabel, and that caused a lot of issues that, not going to get too spoilery into it, but you can do that research for yourself. I do think he does want that redemption. He was actually supposed to be planned as a companion in the game. I think that would have been really cool to have him, but J.K. Simmons rocked it with his voice acting. Like, J. Jonah Jameson just mentioned Spider-Man. He is J. Jonah Jameson. So J.K. Simmons did the voice acting for it and did an incredible job. This is one of the villains that really stood out to me. Unfortunately, he doesn't have anything to do in Act 3. I wish that he was able to survive somehow or continue as a companion, because that would have been really cool. Just a big what if. Next, we have Gortash, and I would say Gortash, not the worst villain. It's just kind of like Rich Boy. He talks himself up like he's a super attractive dude, and he literally looks like someone that, yeah, he doesn't look the part. Like, I feel like there's actually been a lot of mods that I saw that make him look different, because he just looks like he looks like the Final Fantasy 15 protagonist, but way older and kind of beat up. You can side with Gortash, and you can also side with him and backstab him. He's an interesting character. I feel like he's a tyrant, though. He's evil, but Orin is more evil. I think I'd put Orin in the A tier, because Orin has a heavy involvement to the plot. Like, I mean, all three of the Chosen Three do, but she has ties to Minthara. I feel like as a character, she is pretty much the most evil of them all. She's also voiced by Lady Dimitrescu, Lady D from Resident Evil. Heisenberg from Resident Evil voices Astarion, so pretty interesting. They both kind of got a collab there, but she is evil to the bone. She shows up often in Act 3, and it's actually kind of funny. If you spot her in Act 3, you'll notice that they're like level 12 with no health. You can attack them. So yeah, she's spooky. I don't know. I feel like she is a character that is fun to hate, and it's actually kind of funny because you can one-shot her in Act 3. I had Gale upcast Magic Missile to remove all of her stacks of Unstoppable, and then my character, Paladin, came in and smited one-shot her. So I had a pretty easy encounter with her, but yeah, she's A tier. I think she's a great villain. Ketheric's my favorite, Orange second, and Gortash, yeah, I put him B tier. Next we got Withers. Now, Withers is actually a very powerful character as well in the lore of Baldur's Gate. I'm putting him in the A tier. I have made this man rich beyond your comprehension. The amount of build guides that I do, I have to respec at Withers every time. This man has gotten more gold than Garangoth Thorm has. He's always roasting my character. I should put him lower for that. Like, he's always roasting me for not having a romance. And what's even funnier is if you hire hirelings, he will also roast them. It doesn't make sense, because I don't think hirelings can have a romance, but every hireling that I've had, he's always like, "Thou art alone." And I'm like, yeah, man, I'm a hireling. But yeah, I would put him in the B tier. Next we have Yrgir, and it's cool. You can actually have him side against Raphael. You can also have him break his contract by blowing himself up. I'm going to put him in the C tier, though. I feel like he only shows up briefly for two moments in the game, and I don't love the character a whole lot, so I'll put him into the C tier. Next we have Isabel. I think she's a pretty good character overall, A tier. Her and Dame Aelin, both I would put in the A tier. They have a lot of unique, they stick around your camp. They're dating, and Dame Aelin also has some interesting interactions in Act 3 with Lorokin. You can sell her. You can sell her identity, or I guess you can basically sell her to Lorokin for 5,000 gold. I would not recommend doing that because she has one of the most epic moments in the game where she picks up Lorokin and smashes him over her knee, literally like a WWE star. And Isabel, they're both great characters, I would say. Heavily tied to the plot. And yeah, I would put them in the A tier. I feel like one of these should have been a companion at some point. That would have been really cool. Even just a minor one. Next we have Cazador. He is someone that you really want to hate. I don't love, like, I like Astarion a lot. I don't love Cazador as a character too much. So I'm going to put him in the C tier. Some people may disagree with that and say he's a better character than C tier, but I don't know. It's just not a character that I love too much myself. As I feel bad for Astarion, but whenever we see him, I just want to get him off the screen as quickly as possible. So I don't know, something about Cazador that just kind of freaks me out, and I don't love the character too much. But next we have Viconia. Similar situation. You can actually sell, or you can give Shadowheart to her. I wouldn't recommend doing that. Again, these two characters actually kind of remind me of each other. And Viconia is actually from the Baldur's Gate 2. She was a companion that you could have, and she was evil aligned, and she's still evil aligned. But I would say they're both pretty evil, but I hate them. And I said earlier about the Emperor being very nuanced and easy to hate for some people, and that's why he's so good. These are just hateable. So, yeah, I'd put them in the B tier, or C tier. Next, we have the Sharess Caress lady. I forget her name. I'll put her in the B tier. I don't love or hate. I've never done that scene. I've seen it, but I've never done it myself. So, yeah, I just put her in the B tier just because, I don't know, she's not a major character. I thought that originally this was the Dream Guardian, but no, someone told me that this is the Sharess Caress, and, yeah. Finally, we have Omalium. I'm putting him in the A tier. He's a real homie. He's actually trying. I'll put them down there, and I'll put him above them. Now he's trying to make it so that Mind Flayers stop eating brains. So I can respect that. He's trying to do greater good, and he actually cares about the character, which, like, the Emperor cares about it for his own reasons, whereas he cares about it because he's a good guy. So I have to put him in the A tier. I know this list kind of heavily skewed towards the A and S tier, but that's just to say Baldur's Gate 3 has some really great characters. So let me know in the comments what you think of the Baldur's Gate 3 characters, because I think there's some really good ones. Where you'd place them, because sometimes, like, maybe I overlook something, but it's all subjective. There's no real, like, this isn't set in stone, but these are just my thoughts. So feel free to comment below with your thoughts. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button below, and I'll see you all in the next video.